we can't skip over that as a teenager. We learned that you caddied for Jack LaLanne, who's definitely the OG vegan veg guy, always encouraging more fruits and more veggies. And this ties into when you're working for Steve Jobs at Next and you found out you were overweight, high cholesterol, you start training for triathlons. So you caddy for Jack LaLanne. What did you think at the time when he was saying maybe not eating so many animals is a good idea and more fruits and veggies? And then did his voice come back into your head when you started on your journey to lose weight?
Yeah, it comes back to my head all the time. In fact, I have right here on my desk one of his many books celebrating 90 years. This was the Jack LaLanne I knew. I mean, he was the Arnold Schwarzenegger of his day. I think he was 40 when this photo was taken. Can you imagine being a kid from Oakland? My dad wouldn't give me an allowance or anything, so I had to go earn my own money for clothes and things. And right. So I got this job as a caddy at Orinda Country Club, and Orinda Country Club has a very high-end clientele, and I started doing it when I was 14. You could do it in those days. And somewhere along the line, the caddy master who liked me put me in a foursome where I caddied for two people. Jack LaLanne was one, who was very famous in the day. He had that TV show and right. A Hollywood star, the whole thing. And Rick Barry, who was the NBA's most valuable player, and they won the national championship. And so there's 6'7" Rick Barry, skinny, and Jack LaLanne, who's super muscular, and I'm caddying from both. And Rick never talked to me, but Jack took an interest in it. He's the nicest guy, and he took an interest in me. And he caught me once drinking an orange soda. Why wouldn't I drink an orange soda? Every kid drank orange soda. And he told me to pour it out and get rid of it and drink water instead. And then he just started, every time I'd caddy for him, he'd tell me something new about nutrition. There wasn't that much to know, but
right.
But he would say, "Chris, if it came from a cow or a pig, don't eat it." And he'd say, "I want you to eat 5 fruits and 10 vegetables every day." I mean, it's like, come on. And he used to say, "If you stop eating it, you won't miss it." And it's like, no, I don't think so. So I was caught in this dispute because my father was on there were lots of popular low-carb diets in the 60s that preceded the Atkins diet. The Atkins diet was just more marketing of the same old diet, except he called it revolutionary, and he was pretty good at marketing it. So we had steak on the grill every night, and we had eggs for breakfast. And my dad was all about protein and no starch. You couldn't have starch, so which was carbs. So I would tell that to Jack, and he would tell me why he didn't think that was right. So I would tell that to my dad, and he would say, "Well, Jack eats fish and chicken and egg whites, and he exercises so much, and maybe he's got genetics, he can get over eating the starch, But listen, Jack is not a doctor, and he's not a scientist. You got to listen to doctors and scientists." Well, that had weight on me because I thought, yeah, that could be true. He's a gym rat, as my dad called him, so yeah, maybe. So I kind of forgot about Jack for years. And then when I was at Stanford and was deeply into science, a lot of what Jack said came back. And my dad, had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, gout, overweight, and he died of a massive heart attack when he was 70, as happened to my sister at 70, my age. So I guess I'm done. And so I began to pay more attention to Jack and his background, and noticed that he hung out with a lot of nutrition scientists, that his mother had been Seventh-day Adventist, and so he had kind of a predisposition towards vegetarianism. And a lot of the scientists that he was listening to were Adventist scientists. They have a very respected school of nutrition. And come on, they're the longest lived population in the world, as far as I can tell, right here in the United States, even though they're diverse. They're 35% Black and 17% Hispanic, and 40% of them live in high mortality states in the South. Of all the populations in the world you'd least expect to be the longest lived population in the world, it would be right here in the United States with that diverse of a population, not necessarily high income either. So they have lots of risk factors. But, I did an episode about why Americans don't live as long as other rich countries. The Asian Americans in America do. They outlive white Americans by 5 or 6 years, but the Adventists outlive white Americans by 9 years and Black Americans by a whole lot more than that.
Wow.
So I think that was very influential on Jack. And so then I got really interested in the science. And as you've seen in my episodes, science is so clear. I mean, populations all over the world, they're piling on the whole plant foods, beans and rice and veggies and fruit and nuts. And, maybe a little bit of animal food is fine, especially if it's fish, but not a lot. And especially if it's red meat.
So you got overweight when you were working so many, desk jobs for people like Steve Jobs, and you also had very high cholesterol. So you started exercising a lot, but your cholesterol still remained high. And that your doctor said, well, you should take these drugs. What made you, was that the catalyst? You realized, I can't out exercise this high cholesterol, or did you just think, it's in my family? What was your reaction?
I had got up to 228 pounds. I'm 6'4". A lot of that was working out in the gym. I was weightlifting a lot, 3 days a week. My exercise in the day was an hour of weights every other day and 30 minutes as fast as I could go on the Stairmaster. But I also was too heavy. I had a little bit of visceral fat and so on. And my cholesterol, I guess I'm borderline hypercholesterolemia. As my LDL gets up to about 200 if I eat what I thought was a fairly healthy diet, Mediterranean diet with olive oil and a lot of fish, but, also some I was eating indulgences like cookies and cake at my kids' birthday parties and things like that. So anyway, 228 pounds and high cholesterol. So I decided, I was 47. I decided, you know what, I'm going to do an Ironman when I'm 50. And I hired a coach and the drill. He said, well, your training weight should really be 195 and your A race weight for the year should be 185. And if you're ever going to run a marathon, it's got to be a lot less than that. And it's like, whoa. So
that's lean at 6'4".
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this guy, Reno Starat, he had run sub 245 marathons at Boston over 5 decades. His best was a 212 and he was 130 at 6'1". And when I got down to 175 pounds and I was 50 something and I ran a 345 marathon, I think. And he ran less than a 245 marathon. I said, how come you're that much faster than me? And he said, it's weight. You're 40 pounds overweight, at least at 175. And he says, I race at 125. He said, there's 50 pounds. There's 50 minutes right there. So,
well, I guess it's whatever your priorities are, but you weren't a professional athlete. So
no.
I read that you felt you were too thin at 175.
Well, people said so. My face was starting to get drawn and they would say, eat a sandwich. This vegan diet is destroying you. Look what you're wasting away. You didn't look good. So anyway, I was training at 195 and at age 50, I did a race at 185, my first Ironman. And then I had my blood test and my cholesterol had not budged. Nothing had changed. The LDL was pegged where it was before. And it's like, what? How is that even possible? And I went back to my doctor, who's still my doctor today. He's become vegan. I hope that I helped influence that. And he got certified by the Colin Campbell, lifestyle courses and everything. He said, it's genetic. You can't outrun your genes. I'm sorry. You're going to have to be on statins. So I went back and that's when I got interested in Caldwell Esselstyn, his book and Joel Furman and all the rest. So I began to be more strict in my diet and be very vegan, but also no indulgences at all. And I cut out the oils just because I'd heard enough from them and I thought they're kind of empty calories, no protein or whatever in the day. Anyway, I cut them out and my LDL dropped from 200 to 120. Well, 120 is a lot better. But that's as low as I could get it, via weight and diet and everything. I tried everything. I think I didn't keep perfect food logs, but I did weigh my food and kept some food logs. And it felt that if I did have some oils, the polyunsaturates were a little better at keeping my LDL down than the monounsaturates were, like olive oil. And I think science has kind of confirmed that. So 120 is as low as it goes. But to go from 200 to 120 LDL is a big accomplishment just by diet. I mean, can a statin do that?